Trade is the lifeblood of civilization. Trade is where cultures mingle and change. Trade is critical to our life as we understand it today. We have traded with each other since before we figured out how to make paper and write on it. The earliest clay tablets are writings about trades and gifts and taxes and other economic matters. But would the same apply if we went into space? Would we trade with species not our own? People that did not originate on a planet like Earth? Would those species be interested in trading with aliens like us, or would our values be too different? That is what I want to talk about today. Trading in a science fiction universe. Welcome to another episode of Just in Time Worlds with your host, Marie Mullaney. This video is the culmination of my space fantasy world-building series, and it has been a long time coming. I have spoken about creating geopolitical units in space, faster than light travel, magic in space, and futuristic technology. We've explored value in worlds where resources are limitless, and we've covered currency. Finally, it is time to talk about trade in space. The reason why we had to talk about all of those other topics is because, for example, the way your universe has broken the FTL barrier fundamentally affects their trading methods. If your FTL method is something like Dune, your trade takes place planet to planet, with cargo ships moving the goods. If, on the other hand, your FTL is something more like Babylon 5, where you have jump gate points, you will have something more akin to trade routes, and hubs for trade will spring up where the gates exist. Of course, currency and what cultures value will equally affect trade, as will the geopolitical division of space, and so on and so forth. So yes, a long time coming, but I think we finally have the foundation to speak about the complexities of space-age trade. So how I'm going to approach this video is to split it into 4 potential trade models and explore each of these models, how they would come about, what storytelling opportunities they offer, and what you should be aware of when using these models. So without further ado, let's plunge into the first one, the lone wolf trader. The lone wolf traders journey in self-contained and independent trading vessels across the cosmos, buying and selling goods from anyone they can find. In the grim darkness of the far future, where traders navigate the warp, we find the best example of the lone wolf trader, rogue traders from the Warhammer 40k lore. First, I should explain what a rogue trader is. Rogue traders are empowered by the Imperium with warrants of trade, ancient and powerful legal documents that grant them the authority to travel beyond the Imperium's borders, to trade, to conquer in the name of the Empire, and to expand the reach of the Imperium. They travel in massive ships as large as 5 kilometers long and with a crew of thousands to explore new worlds, and they are often traveling for years outside the borders of the Imperium. These kinds of lone wolf traders are absolutely ideal if you have a space frontier type of vibe. They embody the pioneering spirit of humanity and as such are great for telling exploration type stories. But they have their dark side too and can play really well with themes like imperialism, exploitation, and the moral complexities of interaction with alien cultures. Use these kind of traders if you want to lean into a story of first contact, exploration, or surviving space without external help. The ship can get into all kinds of trouble after all, which can be a fantastic story to tell. If you do use lone wolf traders, you should bear the following points in mind. 1. The ship. This needs to be well defined. How does FTL work in your universe? Do they need fuel? Is there one person whose role is critical to the FTL, for example, the navigator of Warhammer 40k? How much crew does it take to pilot the ship? What kind of threats can they face? All of those details are critical to telling your story. Bear in mind, the characters live on the ship. You should consider their daily lives, their entertainment, how long they can be on the ship before going stir crazy, and so on. This is the character's home, and it needs a lot of effort put into it. 2. Control. Somewhere back in the home culture, there is someone who wants control exercised over the lone wolf trader. They are still agents of their homeworld culture after all. Much like the privateers of the age of sail and exploration were still agents of their countries of origin. In Warhammer 40k, this control is exercised through the warrant of trade, likely based on the writs privateers in our world carried as well. In your world, how is control exercised over these lone wolves? What's stopping someone with enough cash from jumping up and becoming one of these traders? And what discipline can the home culture exercise over these traders? In Warhammer 40k, the writ of trade can be withdrawn, and then the rogue trader is vulnerable to the laws of the Empire. What happens in your world if a trader goes too far? And what would they have to do in order to be considered over the line and be condemned? Consideration 3. Protocols. If you think about Star Trek Voyager, which was basically operating on a lone wolf model, and you contrast that with Rogue Trader, you can clearly see the difference protocols make. Rogue traders are agents of the Imperium, and they will always look to suppress the Xeno, even if they trade with them. But Star Trek is built on welcoming all, so their first contact scenarios are vastly different. You don't need to define every possible protocol in the home culture here. Just consider what the general flavor of protocol is and how that affects your lone wolf trader. The vibe of protocol, if you will. Consideration 4. Effect beyond trade. What is the political impact of these lone wolf traders? If they come out of space with new trade goods or an alien species, what is the reaction of their home culture? Will there be conflict between them and other traders or between them and the Empire? Basically, when the main characters return home, will they be considered conquering heroes or black villains? And if you know all four of those things, you should be good to create your lone wolf trader model. And if you like this discussion of lone wolf traders, hit the thumbs up button, and let's talk about the next model, trading hubs. Trade hubs are what they sound like, places where trade takes place, much like trading towns in our world. Now, of course, trade takes place in almost every town and city in our world, but a trading town is a town that exists primarily for trade because of its location. And the same applies to a trading hub in space. Typically, this kind of hub would arise because of your FTL method. If you need a specific kind of fuel, a trading hub might arise close to the source of that fuel. Or, like the example we're going to explore, if your FTL method uses outside the ship boosters, like the jump gates of Babylon 5, trading hubs could very well arise around the devices that make FTL trade possible. This is indeed the case with Babylon 5, the diplomatic and trading stations situated at the jump gate located in neutral space. Babylon 5 acts as a crossroads for trade routes spanning the galaxy. This strategic placement facilitates commerce, diplomacy, and interaction among a multitude of races with varying interests and needs. The station's neutrality makes it a safe space for traders, diplomats, and travelers from competing empires, fostering a marketplace that is as diverse in goods and services as it is in clientele. Traders from all over the universe are welcome, and the major and minor political players all have representation on Babylon 5, leading to 5 seasons of great content. Okay. 4 seasons of great content. And also ran. But that wasn't their fault. They were told to wrap up in 4 seasons, and they did that, and then they were told, psych, no, you're getting another season. And they had to go fish for the story. So cut the last season some slack. Anyway, trade hubs like Babylon 5 offer rich thematic and storytelling opportunities. They can be melting pots of culture where various species and factions interact, leading to stories of cooperation and conflict, intrigue and betrayal, cultural exchange and misunderstanding. Trade hubs also allow for exploration of various themes, such as economic disparity, the impacts of commerce on less technologically advanced society, and the ethical implications of trade, including smuggling and the black market, all themes that are explored in Babylon 5. So lean into this as your trading model if you want a plethora of alien races interacting on a daily basis and a place where trade is driven by its location. Like with lone traders, there's a few things to bear in mind with this model. 1. Economic systems. The foundation of any trade hub is its economy. Consider the currencies used, the types of goods traded, and the economic policies that govern commerce. There will absolutely be currency traders here, and information brokers, and perhaps even some kind of stock exchange. Any sort of economic activity you can think of in our world will exist in these space hubs. 2. Security. How is peace maintained in a place that attracts so many different and potentially hostile groups? The role of law enforcement and security measures is crucial in maintaining order and protecting trade. Who pays for this law enforcement? In Babylon 5, it starts out with the Earth Gov paying for the station. But as the story progresses and they become more and more militant, Earth Gov that is, Babylon 5 levies fees from traders and other species and becomes independent of Earth Gov, which comes with its own set of problems, of course. And as part of your security, you should also consider the role the hub plays in politics. Is it independent? Is it run by a specific culture? How do the ambassadors treat it? And is it also a diplomatic station? 3. Infrastructure. Designing a space that accommodates diverse species requires some pretty thoughtful infrastructure planning, from the docking bays for different ships, to marketplaces where people can mingle, to residential areas. You need to take into consideration alien life form requirements like different kinds of air or food or even radiation or light sources that the various species require. So think about all of those elements when you're putting together the infrastructure of this hub. Remember, people will be spending time here, and you need to plan that infrastructure up front. 4. Cultural exchange. The interactions between various species and cultures at a trade hub can lead to cultural diffusion, tension, and innovation. This is an amazing opportunity for storytelling. The whole drama of Babylon 5 kicks off because of a cultural misunderstanding. The Minbari see open gun ports on a ship as a sign of respect, but an Earth captain had taken that as a threat and attacked a Minbari ship, and that kicked off the Earth-Minbari war that preceded the series start. That kind of cultural misunderstanding very easily comes about on such a trade hub and can create amazing stories. Trade hubs like Babylon 5 are not just economic centers. They are vibrant ecosystems that bring together a galaxy's worth of diversities, conflict, and story potential. And if you enjoyed this conversation about Babylon 5 and trade hubs, hit that thumbs up button and let's talk about fast track routes. So fast track routes are trade routes where you can move from one planet to another with barely any effort once you've created your track or built your road. A great example of this comes from Stargate, the TV series. In the Stargate universe, the network of Stargates represents a unique form of trade and travel infrastructure. This system relies on point-to-point teleportation between gates, enabling nearly instantaneous travel across vast distances. Now, to use a system like this, you need to invest in building the track, i.e., you need to build or find the gate, depending on your tech level, and you need to get it to the other end of the track. But once the track is established, the cost of travel is negligible. This kind of trade has some really nice thematic elements like exclusivity and knowledge as power. Knowing how to use the track and control of the track and its extensions becomes a powerful commodity. Such knowledge could become closely guarded secrets or valuable trade items in and of themselves. Or you could lean into technological disparity as a theme. The contrast between societies with access to the fast-track technologies and those without highlights themes of technological disparity and its impact on societal development, economic inequality, and cultural exchange. This is an especially great story to lean into if each society has to pay for its own track, but the best way to pay for the track is to be on the track, creating a loop where poor societies get poorer. Just be careful not to be too on the nose with these themes. When a theme hits you in the face with a baseball bat and it loses the story, no one enjoys that. Okay, so there are some interesting themes to play with, but what should you consider when building a fast-track trading system? 1. Initial investment versus operational cost. This highlights the contrast between the high technological and resource investment needed to establish and maintain the gates versus the low operational cost of using them once they are in place. This fundamentally affects the distribution model of the fast-track system. How these tracks are distributed across the galaxy, randomly, strategically by an ancient civilization, or through current technological endeavors, can affect the network's accessibility and its strategic value. 2. Security and control. Consider how access is controlled and secured against unauthorized use, including technological safeguards, military presence, or diplomatic agreements. Who can access the fast-track system and how is that access secured? 3. Economic and social impact. Explore how instantaneous travel affects trade dynamics, the valuation of goods, and the economic development of connected worlds. The network could lead to booming trade centers at gate locations, while also posing challenges to local economies unprepared for such rapid integration. And also consider how access to the network shapes societal structures, from economic systems to government types, and how it influences the daily lives of individuals who interact with goods brought through the track. 4. Cultural exchange and conflict. The fast track facilitates not just trade, but also cultural exchange, potentially leading to cultural homogenization or conflict as different worlds come into close contact. The network can be a source of both conflict or cooperation, as worlds negotiate for access, defend against threats, and navigate the complexities of interstellar diplomacy. This kind of trade network is fantastic if you want to explore the effect of advanced technology on trade and societies without worrying too much about ships and space travel. And if you enjoyed that exploration of trade in the fast track, hit the thumbs up button and let's talk about the human element. The Talent series by Anne McCaffrey introduces a fascinating premise for trade and transportation within a universe, a network dependent on the psychic abilities of a select few individuals known as talents. This concept, which we could call a psych-linked trade network, showcases the profound impact of individual abilities on commerce, travel, and interstellar connectivity. This framework offers rich thematic exploration and storytelling opportunities centered around scarcity, power, and the human element in galactic trade networks. The reliance on a small number of individuals with unique abilities to facilitate trade and transport introduces a natural scarcity, creating a monopoly over interstellar movement. This theme can be explored through the lens of economic control and social inequality and the politics of resource distribution. But you can go either way with this. You can explore the question of allowing such a small number of people to dominate so totally a critical aspect of life. Or you can explore the impact of being such an important cog on these people. The potential for exploitation of these talented individuals raises ethical questions about freedom, autonomy, and the commodification of humans. Stories can delve into the lives of talents, the burdens of their abilities, and their struggle for rights and recognitions. The dependence on talents for critical infrastructure makes societies vulnerable to their loss, incapacitation, or manipulation. And this vulnerability can drive narratives about security, redundancy in systems, and the quest for alternative methods of trade and transport. Unlike technological trade systems, this psych-linked trade network emphasizes the human or sentient being element, exploring how individual personalities, ethics, and relationships impact the functioning and efficiency of trade. By focusing on the individuals who control the trade network, you can write a deeply personal perspective on the broader sci-fi setting, exploring their lives, challenges, and growth. The central role of talents in the economy and society sets the stage for conflict, be it personal rivalry, political machinations, to control the talents, or external threats targeting the network. You could tell a tale of how people strive to be free of the tyranny of talent, or a tale of how talents strive for human rights, and both stories would be fascinating for your audience. My cat really, really, really wants to say hello. So this is Asura, and she loves you all. I promise she does. And we're going to try and finish this video. So, what should you consider when building such a human-orientated trade network? Well, honestly, it's a lot like what you need to think about when you're building your magic system and thinking about mages. So, same as with mages. 1. Training and discovery. How are talents identified, trained, and integrated into the trade network? The processes behind these steps can add depth to your world and its cultures. 2. Social status and rights. What are the social status of talents? Are they revered, feared, or exploited? What are their legal rights or lack thereof? This is the thematic heart of this kind of trade structure, and you should certainly give it some thought. 3. Limits and costs. Define the limits of the talent's abilities and any physical or emotional costs associated with their use. This can introduce tension and stakes into the narrative. Like with magic systems, the limitations are actually more interesting than the pyrotechnics. And for my take on magic systems, I have a whole playlist right over there. And 4. Alternative systems. Consider whether there are alternative trade and transport systems in place for redundancy or to serve areas beyond the reach of the talents, and how these systems interact with or compete against the talent-based network. Integrating this kind of trade network into a story offers a unique opportunity to explore the intersection of power, ethics, and human potential within the vast expanse of a sci-fi universe. It challenges world builders and storytellers to think deeply about the implications of basing a critical infrastructure on the abilities of a few, weaving together narratives that are as compelling and complex as the universes they inhabit. It allows you to humanize your theme and to tell a great story. And I know I hammer on theme a lot, but isn't that why we choose one thing over another in world building? Because of the stories it allows us to tell? Trade is not just a background element, it's a vital aspect of world building that adds layers of complexity, realism, and intrigue to our stories. The key to using the right trading model is to build the model that supports your story best, that gives you the most creative freedom to tell the tale or run the campaign that plays out in the universe that you have built. And as such, your theme guides that universe and should guide your world building to create what you need to tell the story. Let me know in the comments which trading model you like best and what stories you would tell with it. Today's video was brought to you by the amazing members of my channel who are the best traders I could hope for. For as little as a cup of coffee a month, you can get exclusive videos, worksheets, and early access to all my contents. And shoutouts like this one to Tony on the Build It in Stone tier and Dylan, my oldest Build It in Wood tier member. By joining the channel, you can help me make more and better quality content. But please don't feel pressured to support the channel financially. You can also show your support just by watching another video. Since you enjoyed this video, you might also enjoy my video on overland trade routes in fantasy. Or you can trust the algorithm with its recommendation right over there. And I will see you soon for another episode of Just in Time Worlds, where we build what we need when we need it.